What we focus on expands, whether that's positive or negative. And in this episode, I want to go over the power of positive thinking and why it is going to be the thing that should shift your perspective so that you can live a better life for yourself. Welcome to the Five Squad. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Five Squad podcast. For those out there that do not know who I am, my name is Evan Andrews, and I am back for another solo episode as me and my wife had some scheduling issues with the last couple of weeks just due to coming off the holidays and a few different things like that. But I wanted to bring you guys another episode here from my house and my home office so that we can just keep this ball rolling and get this party going. But today is, if you watched last week's episode, I got a little bit deep in terms of, some things that I'm currently, dealing with. And I know that a lot of people out there currently deal with right now in terms of, not really understanding if the path that they're on is the right path for them. And today was a really natural segue from that one. And it's really today I want to talk about the power of your perspective. So the way that you think and how that shifts the landscape that's laid out in front of you and how you approach each and every day. The understanding of how we focus on certain things and how it molds our reality, I think is something that people don't really realize how much control that they actually have over it, right? So our brain, at the end of the day, it filters through information based on what we focus on, right? So an analogy here that maybe many of you have heard this before or actually experienced this, but let's say that you're shopping for a new car. Right. So you go and you look at all the different cars and you finally land on the dream car that you want, right? Or you land on the choice that you're going to go with, right? Now, in the days following getting the car back home, really getting acquainted and acclimated to the vehicle, you start to notice a few little things, right? You start to notice more of the same exact car that you just purchased, right? Or you start to notice more of the same car in the same color, right? Or just the same color car in general, right? We start to notice more about what we actually focus on, right? And the same thing can be said about our thoughts and our emotions. If we think about certain things for too long, we dwell on certain emotions for too long, it keeps us stuck in those repetitive cycles, and they're actually not healthy for us, right? And it's really an impact on the way that we focus on our mental health, right? So if we focus more on problems, we're going to have a ton of problems. But if we focus more on solutions to our problems, we're going to be more cognitively aware to actually finding solutions to the problems that we have. And I think there are just two different people in the world, right? There's pessimists and there's optimists, right? If you focus on problems, you identify as a pessimist. And if you focus on solutions, you focus on solving issues, right? So it's really, honestly, at the end of the day, it's not even a crazy science, honestly. But it is something that we inevitably fall into a trap, because I think it's actually easier to dwell on the things that we don't have or the negative aspects of our life. And I think that's why a lot of people just default to that space, because it's easier to complain about things. It's easier to say it's not my fault, right? Rather than take the right path forward in actually solving the issues that we have. But the focus that we put on different aspects of life, they have kind of big meanings on all aspects, like our relationships or the growth that we may want in our career, or if you're an entrepreneur out there, if you wake up every day and you say, like, this is just really hard, I don't know if I want to do this, right? Going back to my last episode, you're just going to focus on that. You're not going to get up every day and strive for the best path forward, because it's just what you feel like you believe, right? And only when you shift that mindset and focus your perspective on more of a positive outlook, only when you do that is when you will start to see the fruits of that labor and really make the necessary shifts that you need to make to to have a better path forward. And that, that comes with identifying what you're focusing on, right? So if you really recognize that you have habitual thought patterns that, are negative to you, right? If you don't really realize it, then you're just going to stay in that constant flow state that's not really positive, right? But if you really focus on the 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 positive aspect of what can come out of situations, right? If you look at things from a what could be rather than what is not frame, you're going to have a better time in navigating that path of of not feeling down on yourself, right? And I'm not sitting here and saying all of this to say like you have to be positive Paul all the time, because it's not physically possible to do that. It's not mentally possible to always say like, "Hey, yeah, this is shitty, but I'm going to act this way." Right? It's very, very easy for us to just fall into that negative loop. For me and what I've learned personally, it's how long do you want to stay in that loop, right? Um, a a guy by the name Brendan Bouchard. If you guys listen to us, you probably have heard us mention him and Growth Day before. He's talked about in some of his episodes and seminars and his daily fires that sometimes it is okay to throw yourself a pity party, right? Like if you're not feeling a certain thing, or it's just not maybe the right time for a particular thing to be worked on, right? It's okay to step away. It's okay to feel a certain thing, because if you don't feel it, then you just block it out and you don't really push yourself to be able to solve the issue, right? But in some aspects and in some regards, it is okay to live in and sit with the fact that you don't feel okay about a certain thing. But it's not okay to live there for forever and put the blame on other aspects as to why you're there, right? You're in full control over everything that you allow to happen in your life, everything that you allow to take shape and form and existence in your life. You have full control over all of that. You can choose to partake in that, or you can choose to change it, right? And I think a lot of us just would rather sit and dwell than actually change, because change comes with work, and work is not fun for anybody. But the ones that do have success in life are the hardworking people, and those that really understand that are the ones that we usually see come off out on top, or come around the mountain, if you will, right? But I think understanding that the shifting of our focus is honestly how we reshape our own realities, right? So, how do we go about doing that? Well, I know something that my wife really, really tries to instill in me, and she's really good at doing this for herself when she's in a down state, is she's very, very good at practicing gratitude, right? She really knows and understands, once she's really identified that something is an issue, right? Within her own self, right? And knowing that there's only so much that maybe other people can do to help pull her out of that. When she has to take the necessary next step, she's very good at realigning, what she's grateful for. I think a lot of us in life in general, we get down in our own gratitude journeys, which gets us down in our regular day-to-day journeys. And by not being grateful for things, it's very easy for us to kind of just fall into these realms of not feeling good enough, or again, going back to my last episode, not feeling that like on the right path. And all of those feelings are what mold our perspective, which mold our reality, right? So other ways, or what I noticed that my wife does very, very well, is she really resets her daily intentions, and she gets really clear on what that is. Like, for example, she has done really well over the past 2 weeks in, at the time of this dropping, it's going to be probably about a month now. But she does very well at getting up in the morning and doing her daily gratitude journal through her faith studies that she does, and that helps realign her day, get her day started off in the way that it actually needs to. And I've seen a tremendous, change in the way that she actually approaches the day. Now, does the day get in the way sometime and kind of bring us down a peg and maybe our thoughts start to shift again. Yeah, I mean that happens I think to everybody. I'm very much kind of the opposite. Like I'll wake up in the morning feeling depressed and down, but my day goes on, and I handle this and I handle that, and something good happens, and I reshift my perspectives as I go through the day and find those little nuggets of, yeah, this is why I do it, right? This is why I'm good at what I do, right? Like I have a good content session with a client, or, one of my clients gets a win and, their ads start working for them and they book some calls, or they get a sale, or, all of that. And that helps me at the end of the day really understand that, like, yo, I'm on the right path. This is changing my perspective on my outlook of my future. And it just keeps me going. Right. So I think, being very clear in our intentions every day will help us mold our own realities in the long run. And then using other tools you can use, like positive affirmation and visualization techniques. This is something that I don't think I do too well. I think my wife does a better job at this in her prayers and things of that nature to help mold her perspective and her realities. I'm working on them for myself, right? But I think that that those kind of techniques, they are very much like you have to really get acquainted with those techniques. I'm very good at visualizing like what I want, right? Like, I'm very good at that. The affirmations aspect of, am I worthy of it? Am I this? Am I that? I probably struggle with that more than I'd like to admit, but that's my challenge. That's my goal. That's the realignment that I need for myself to reshape my perspective to have the positive path forward that I actually want to. So I say all of this because I wholeheartedly believe that the way that we think on a day-to-day basis is exactly how our paths unfold. You can choose to look at things from a negative light. You can choose to look at things from a positive light. You can choose to look at things from a neutral frame and not really sure which, way that you should look at life, right? But I do firmly believe that the things that we believe and the things that we tell ourselves are the things and the actions that actually manifest in our day to day. And as hokey as you may think that sounds, I wholeheartedly and firmly believe that is true. Whereas maybe if you talk to me 10 years ago or so, I would just say, no, it's what you make happen because you're hardworking, or, this, that, or the other. And I do believe that as I've gone through my faith journey and my spiritual kind of awakening in the last 4 or 5 years, that there's forces outside that I can rely on to help me, get through those waters. I can lean on the back of, knowing that I'm not in full control over everything in terms of what my overall path might be, but I am in full control of how I approach that path. And I think that's the biggest realization that I had to realize, is that I can choose whether or not I want to go about it in a positive light or in a negative light. So, with that being said, that brings us to the end of this episode here. If you got all the way through this episode, I wholeheartedly greatly appreciate you sitting here and watching me yap for, the better half of the last, 15 or 20 minutes or so. I wanted to make these last 2 episodes just because I know that I currently go through them right now. And I know that there's a ton of people out there that also go through this stuff on a day-to-day basis. And maybe these words are something that you need to hear, right? To be able to approach your day better, or get a little bit better in your thought patterns and the things that kind of make your life what it is, right? I'm here, my wife and here are just here to let everybody know that come in contact with this podcast, that more often than not, there's a larger majority of people going through the same shit that you're going through, and that you're not alone in these journeys. Right. So yeah, I wanted to make this one because I just so align with how you think shapes your reality. And I think a lot of us out there just think too much in the negative rather than in the positive. And I know that we here at the 5 Squad podcast, we're trying to shape our realities for the positive and for the future. So Again, if you got all the way through this, I appreciate it. If you haven't already, if you're just discovering us for the first time, make sure that you subscribe to our channel. We release every Thursday morning at 6 a.m. And then we have all of our snippets and tidbits that come out pretty much every day in between those releases. But I'm gonna leave you the same way that we always leave every single episode, and that just to remember that every day is a new day for you guys out there. It's a new chance to get it right, to keep pushing forward, and to stay inspired. Thanks.